Okay, everyone. Thanks for coming. Today we're gonna do more of the shape lecture. This is definitely gonna be a companion piece to the last week because last week I was sick and I didn't get to show too many examples of the one jump, the diagonal, and so on and so forth. So this week we're gonna finish that up, and then I actually have quite a lot of questions involving actual double-digit Q games where it shows the examples of like when we should have used the diagonal or connected solidly or used the one jump. So we're just gonna go right into it. So the first example we're looking at here is A and B, right? So we see that black was in trouble, and so black jumps out. White attacks on the top, and so now black makes the dog-shaped face. Now, we haven't really gone over completely the dog face shape, I don't think. We did touched on it when we were talking about the table shape. But this is a very good shape to try and bolster yourself out, to make good eye shape, and to kind of get out. So once black touches white, white will hane to counterattack black. And then black bumps here, and here we come to the kind of the problem, right? So should we make the mouth shape or the table shape? Does anybody want to try and answer this?
Sure.
I was
Uh,
I
mhm.
would probably go with A.
Hey, okay.
I'd go with B.
B, okay. All right, let's discuss both. So we'll start we'll start with the bad answer. So sorry, Marty. We got
Well,
we got B here. So Terry picked a two, so don't feel bad. But yes, so B makes the mouse shape. And the mouse shape is very solid, right? It's clearly making an eye, but it's a little slow. And so let's take a look at what happens after. So if white attacks on this side, black only has one place to go. White attacks on this side, black only has one place to go. So what we see here is making the mouse shape is good and solid, but white can chase black and gain a large moil on the bottom side. So while white is attacking black, white was able to build. And this is a really good example of using white's thickness here. Like we don't use our thickness to make territory, right? We use it to attack to make territory on the other side. So this was a really nice example. So instead, we want to move a little faster. And so this is where the one jump comes into play, right? We know that if we jump here now, we can see even if white plays the proper move, right? That now black kind of can come out. And we see that well, black has made good shape and white has been kind of weakened, right? I mean, white is fine, but it's not as good as the other result. The white was making a big moil, and now his moil's kind of spoiled a little here. Black has made good shape. But let's say we play the improper move, right? This is the one I think most double digit Q players would be scared of, right? Even single digit Q players. I mean, this looks like you left a huge vulnerability and can be split. But when we do, well, we counter Atari, and we don't care if this gets taken because now we can play this move. And so we see that white now has hugged the stone and neutralized it. And even if white, continues to play this way, we can see this is really nice shape for black. Black is very clearly out, has damaged this stone, and is continuously damaging this area too. If white was to try and come through, this doesn't really show in the book, but even if we just play it out very simply, we can see black can kind of get a good result here. White can't, there's too many cutting points for white. And so white's in a lot of trouble and is going to have to spend a lot of effort to kill these two stones, and black will be pretty happy. And so when we look back, this is definitely the solid and slow shape to make an eye. It's very good shape, but in this case, it's better for white because white gets to make a really big area and black is just under attack. And as we see, this stone's still not neutralized. It's not hurt, right? But when we compare it to the other result, now you can see that this gets really damaged. And then black has two ways to go. Originally, black only had one way to go. but now black has more options and is hurting white. So it's kind of subtle and hard to see, I think, without a serious explanation. But there's a huge difference between the two. And I find that this shape would it probably even be a little hard for me, right? It usually doesn't feel good to give away stones, but in this case, it allows you to move really quickly, which is nice. And that's why we're talking about this lecture today, right? We're trying to make good shape. So that was the first example. So now we are looking at this. So normally, white will make like a solid connection here, right? White will connect here, and white's very solid. But in this case, because white has a helper stone and is close to the wall, white can actually be a little bit more aggressive. Excuse me, I have tea next to me, and it's gonna help. I'm still kind of getting over my code. So black cuts, which is very normal, right? But now the question becomes, was this a good cut for black? Was it bad for white to abandon this? Should white have connected here, right? So now we have to find how white can make good shape. So let's discuss both of them. The most common and normal move, I think, comes out naturally, is the pullback tetsuji. This is very common because we're making a very clear pinwheel and we have an extra stone here to help. It's probably, once again, something I would have played, which after putting this lecture together, I can see why I got a lot of my shape problems wrong in the book itself, because I generally do the most common or basic moves, and I'm not as imaginative as the book. So A would be the correct dog face shape, but let's just first look at the pullback. So black will play here to strengthen its weakest stone. White needs to protect these stones, safety, right? So it jumps out. Black pushes to cut it one more time. White defends, and now black can jump out. So what we see here is now white is kind of heavy. This group doesn't have good eye potential yet, and so it can be attacked. And if it can be attacked, that means that it's not going to make eyes easy or make territory. Black, on the other hand, has been able to jump out, and so it's very hard to attack this stone right now. And this is kind of where the book ends. So my question to the book is, what if white starts counterattacking this? Apparently, it's a good fight for black here. Black has the strength here. I think maybe this might be the most common move, and then black would be able to live easy. But I do question if white was to attack here, how easy it would be for black to live. It looks a little dangerous. Still, though, this is where the book declares that black has made good shape on the outside and white has heavy stones. So that's what I can tell you for now. I mean, we could play around, but it would take time for me to go through these variations. Still, though, if black can live kind of easy, right, then white didn't really do too much, I guess. I don't know. I'll leave it at that one. This is a hard example for me. But there are clear and better answers, which we can look at this one. So now, instead of playing the pullback tetsuji, we can jump here, which makes this really nice shape. Because if black was to, say, counterattack white, well, now we can Atari, threaten to link up. This cut would be terrible for black, so black has to take. And now we can fully wrap up black. We can see that it creates this dumpling shape. And black looks really bad in this corner, and white has all this thickness everywhere. Everything looks really nice for white. So this shape, even though, once again, this is a little...
Quick question, in that sequence where you connected,
Yeah, let's see.
I would have connected in a different place.
Where?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, yeah. Atari.
Yeah, I would have connected at Q13.
Q13. Okay. So this is a very good example. So what do you think is more important, this right side or this outside, this left center?
I think that the way I connect handles both.
Okay, that's
But maybe I'm just being too. Yeah. So now what's black gonna do?
now, of course, this isn't in the book, but when I'm looking at it, you know, with a 1Q perspective, if black cuts here now, white
Yeah.
is very damaged here, right? This is starting to look a little scary for white. So white might have to make
Yeah.
some
White
moves to
answers,
protect.
of course.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if black comes out very easy, then now A and B have been cut, and all this
Okay.
potential here is gone if white lives very if black lives here. Is that a fair assessment?
Okay, but it's not clear how much. Depending on what the outer stones are, it's not clear to me.
Hmm.
Whether. Besides, I'm sort of nervous about potential in the center anyway. To me, potential is something for the sides
Okay.
or the
Well,
corners.
yeah. From my perspective, black has kind of squandered this area. Um, and white still hasn't made territory yet, right? White's gonna have to make another extension in order to
Yeah.
make this side good.
Okay.
But let's look at it from the other light, right? So if white
Yeah.
connects here,
Yeah.
then what happens if black cuts this,
Yeah.
right? All we do is we sacrifice these two stones, and
Oh, but then you have no more chance to kill that corner.
black's gonna yeah, I mean that's true. You don't have a chance to kill the corner. But look at the results. Look at the
Yeah.
aftermath. I
Yeah, it
would
looks
much
pretty good.
yeah, I would much rather prefer white's
Okay.
position than black's.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So you do end up with a lot of potential on the side if black cuts.
yeah, it's
Okay.
beautiful. It's very
Okay.
beautiful. This is
Okay.
sealing in our opponent.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so to get to a higher level, we have to understand that
Yeah, I guess that's one of my weaknesses is I like to seal my opponent without a guaranteed life.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
understand what you're
most
saying.
likely Black would live, but I always want him a little bit nervous about the group that got sealed in.
Mm. Yeah, the idea is that if you can seal your opponent in Sente, and especially with this ultimate thickness here,
Right.
you've gotten the better result. This is a very good
Okay.
result for
Yeah,
white.
yeah. No, I agree with you.
Yeah. Um, all right,
Okay.
so
Now I understand a little better.
no worries. So when we go back, the book shows us two different ways. And if black was to come out like this, then white can protect. And when black
Sure.
attacks, white can attack back. And so
Right.
now there's a huge cutting point that black's going to have to fix in some manner. And now
Yeah.
white can finish. And so the difference between the other result was black had a stone here and white
Right.
had a stone here. So the exchange for black was better in the when white pulls back.
Yeah.
But in this exchange, if white doesn't pull here and comes out this way, now white gets this nice table shape after. This is a very beautiful shape for white, and
Yep.
black's in trouble. So
Yep.
that's a huge difference between the A and B.
Yep.
All right. So I'll move on
Okay.
to the next result,
Sure.
the next variation. So now we're going to talk about solid connections versus diagonal connections. Essentially, we're moving this stone. So the question is if we should connect solidly, which is usually called the hante move in Japanese, which is the real move. Or should we talk about the tiger's mouth? So we're going to look at a lot of examples for these, especially in the double-digit Q games I picked. So let's take a look. So in this case, we have two options. And I think it's very clear which the better option is for connection here. To protect this cutting point, if we were to play this is very clearly an empty triangle. It feels very inefficient. But if we were to play here to make the tiger's mouth, this is a very nice connection. It has good follow-ups later. We can see that black will once again get a nice tiger's mouth, which has two protected cutting points. Whereas if we were to play something like this, we have a cutting point that we need to protect. So it's very, some of these might be clear to you and some of them might not be. Let's take a look at some more examples. So when we have this infamous shape, we talk about this a lot in my double digit Q class. We can see now that white has attached to black. And so we look at the two options on how to connect, right? I think once again, it's very clear what we should do. If we were to play one, which is the tiger's mouth shape, white would then be able to Atari and put us into this empty triangle or the farmer's hat shape. But this is very inefficient and not fun for black. I'd feel very bad if I was black in this case. So for black, if we were to play something like this, now we have a very solid connection. And if white was to play the same move, we don't have to respond in defense. We can continue attacking.
Yeah.
Once again, this makes what looks like the farmer shape. But the difference is there's no empty triangles. Both triangles are filled. And now white has two cutting points. And so there's a huge difference between the two connections.
Right.
So let's move on to the next
I would
one.
think just to extend down instead of connecting at all.
You can, but then there's a cutting point weakness here for later. White can manipulate this. Yeah, so this is why this is called the Hante move, the solid connection or the real move. So let's move on to the next one. So this is actually a Joseki, this attachment here. And it's one that can be a lot of mistakes. This is a very common running battle we see all the time. Almost, I would say every Go game, there should be at least one or two running battles, if not more. And this is where it becomes very important to understand this. This is probably like the best example I can give in any shape class, because I think this is where I see the most trouble with players. So we have so many options to go. Let's look at the two incorrect ones first. The first one that isn't as obvious, or I'll show the obvious one first. So there's two cutting points. And if white was to cut here, it's very obvious black will connect. And so now white has many, many, many weaknesses. And black has no weaknesses. So this would be great shape for black and awful for white. I'd call this a thank you move if white played this way.
Okay.
Now, the other bad shape is actually this one. Now, normally we talk a lot about double hanes, right? Which is a good tetsuji. And normally it's good if you can get away with it. That's how I usually end up wording it. But in this case, it's actually really bad, because once black Atari's here, we see that white ends up in the empty triangle shape or the farmer's hat shape, right? So once black pushes forward, now there's a ladder problem. So maybe even whether white connects or not, we can see black kind of got the best exchanges out of this. So I'll continue this just a little further. In the example, it also showed white now leaving this area to try and break up black, because black's making a lot. So now black has two ways to go. I'm actually going to ask somebody, Pico, if you're with us, I'm just curious, A or B for black, what do you think the best direction would be to attack?
I think I would go with B.
Okay,
Because
B. Why B?
it encourages white to go over towards like your one stone, which Actually, now that I'm thinking about it again, maybe I'd go with A and drive white towards the wall kind of that you have there.
Yes, yes, exactly. Now I picked you specifically because last week you did really well on the direction of play using thickness. And I think we went over using thickness in the very first lecture, probably a month ago now. And I think you really got a grasp of it. So that's why I specifically asked you. But you are correct. So B is incorrect. If we're playing B, this is kind of trying to use our thickness to make territory. This is awful because now we see that white kind of settles fairly easy. Black barely got anything. And yeah, it's just not how you use your thickness. We don't use our thickness to make territory, we use it to attack. Now, if we use our thickness to attack, once white makes its space, black can fix its problems. And now black doesn't have any weakness. So it's very, very powerful right now. And black is also gaining points and potential on this side while continuing a harassment against this group. This is how we should use our thickness. This is a very good example of that. So if we go back, this all stems from if white plays here, because now we put white in bad shape. We threaten a ladder, and then we have thickness we can use to fight. Good example. Thank you. So now this was all because this is a bad move. So instead, when we come into this fight, we see that there's one option that we didn't cover, right? Which is this one. And I think it's very clear once we Atari here, black has to come back. And now black is in bad shape. This is the empty triangle shape. So once again, I really thought this was like one of the best examples I've seen out of any of the examples we've gone over in this whole, 4-part series. Because this one is so clear cut and like beautiful, like seeing how it puts them into bad shape and puts us into good shape. So finally, we'll end it off with A and B. So I'll show you the bad example first. We're in a cross cut. Our example is usually I tell you guys not to Atari in the cross cut. In this case, if white Atari is in the cross cut, we help black become stronger, and now we're left with a weakness. So the fact that we have to come back to fix our weakness is a great exchange for black, because black has profited with a stone and has come out making more territory and gets sente. So giving away sente like this is awful. Let's compare it to the other result. So if white plays this, yes, it threatens a ladder, and yes, the ladder is good for black, but this is still really good for white because white's playing on its weakness, right? Here is where the weakness is, and you have to fix it. So if you just fix it right away, then there's nothing to worry about. Black will have to come back to kill this stone, right? And then white gets to push. And so now white gets sente. So now white can play something like this after. So even though we come to the same exact shape, the order is different, and it's better for white because white gets sente. So we don't want to make Ataris where we have to come back and fix it. When we're doing this, we're messing up, we're failing. This is what I was taught in the Youngensei League. I thought it was very interesting. Inseong has a lecture. I think it has Atari in the name, like when to use Ataris and when not to use Ataris. And this always stuck with me. The fact that if you have to come back to fix your weakness, then the Atari usually isn't worth playing. So this is the right move. And this is actually Joseki. This is the full Joseki from when black attaches here. So we see that we would Atari, put black in bad shape. Then we come back to fix our own weakness. And now once black fixes its cutting, stone, then we come out with this on top with white and sente. Keeps the other person sente, right? Yes, exactly. So if we have to come back and fix, if that's what you were talking about, then yeah, we have to come back and fix, and then black gets sente. So this exchange is really good for black and terrible for white. So I hope this running battle variation sinks in with you guys, because this is so fundamental. I just had a match with Eric Osman, who's 1Q 1 down on OGS, and we were discussing it with two other 1Qs, and we were having big arguments on how we should continue our own double Hane. It's pretty much the exact situation, and it's just funny that even at 1Q, like in 1 dan, we're still having troubles debating on this stuff. Of course, we shouldn't be, I guess, because we should be masters of the fundamentals at our level. But yeah, it was just funny how relevant it was. I was trying to explain to them about, like, if you have to come back, then you're failing. But I don't know. We all have our own weaknesses, no matter what level we're at. So anyway, it was just so important. So that's all I can really say. I'll move on to the next example. But yeah, I hope that resonates with you. Okay. So now we're going to look at some more examples of the tiger's mouth versus solid connection, right? We're still looking at the Hante move versus tiger mouse. In this case, it's black's turn, and black chooses to play here to fix itself. We see that black is very weak here, right? Black can't make two eyes down here. And black is starting to get covered up, right? Because if this stone's dead, this means white has a lot of power out here. So if black was to Tanuki now, then white hits the most important point, this tiger mouth diagonal shape. We see if black was to connect, white can now jump and connect or help start connecting with these groups. So now black is in a lot of trouble. Once again, these become heavy stones. It also becomes an empty triangle shape. So this is very painful. So it's very nice when black plays here to guard itself, because now white can't attack it, right? And so everything's connected and black's more out. I think I misstepped here. Yeah, black, there should have been one more stone here. The idea was if you should Tanuki or to tiger's mouth, but essentially it's the same. This stabilizes your group, and you can see the same shape here is doing the same thing. This was an example from a pros game I got from the book, where the pro played here. And to me, it looked a little slow at first. I mean, not really, but I'm just trying to judge it in like a double digit Q's eyes. Maybe this looks slow. But it's really powerful, like coming out. So, and we can see the opposite, right? If black Tanukis, this is so painful, because now black gets put in bad shape and then white gets a nice cover. So now this is still under attack. Okay, so now we have a lot of cutting points. And this is kind of a familiar scene, right? Where if white 3/3s and we're put in this position. So now black needs to figure out the best way to protect. Black has three options. If black was to say play here, this is very clearly an empty triangle, so this isn't proper. And same here. If black plays here, this is a very clear empty triangle, right? This is the solid shape. We're still talking about solid versus diagonal. So once we use the diagonal, this makes a really good shape. I just want to show that for endgame purposes, this is bad also, because when white plays here, now black ends in gote and white gets ente. Whereas if black plays the proper move, the diagonal move, if we did the same thing, now black gets sente. So this tiger's mouth or diagonal is very good shape to block on the edge. But finally, the most worrisome thing is something like this. You have to know the Tetsuji in order to play this out. I am going to ask Marty, if you don't mind, Marty.
Sure.
What do you think black's next move should be?
Is the board just like it is?
Just like it is.
I guess I would say P15, but let me think a minute.
Please do. This ladder went. All right, let's pretend the ladder doesn't work. Obviously, if the ladder worked, then yeah, this would be the best move.
I see. Oh, ladder doesn't work. Okay.
You got me good on technicality there, though. You are correct. If the ladder works, then it works. If you guys want to help them, you can write it in the chat. If you think you know the answer.
Well, maybe I would go to Q14.
14. Okay, make the bamboo jump, bamboo joint.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody, let's see. I know people wrote in the chat. Let's just see. T15. That would be coming down. Okay. And then Pico O15. O15. Okay. Yeah, and Kadar was asking for black to move. Yeah. I'm gonna just discuss the answers really quick. So for yours, Marty, it's very solid. But white would be able to prey on this weakness now, right? And so white would be able to get out, and this would be a good result for white because white has split black in two. Even though black is strong on both sides, the potential once again is ruined here. Very similar to what we talked about with the Runus in the other question. So this isn't a good idea. As for this one, white can actually has quite a lot of options, right? White can break the bamboo shoot, and so it creates this danger here, right? This would be bad. And even this, if we said the ladder doesn't work, so this ladder wouldn't work here, so we can't play this out. So it'd be something like this, and now white's in a good position here. Black has so many weaknesses everywhere, so this would be good for white. Finally, Pico said O15. Now, this is actually the correct move. This is known as the loose ladder Tetsuji. It's in the James Davies Tetsuji book, which I recommend you all to read multiple times, whether you finished it or not. I probably read that book like 9 times or finished it at least 4 or 5. And I still, haven't mastered every Tetsuji. But I think that it's very helpful to continuously read that book. But this is such a good Tetsuji because now, obviously, if white tries to come out, then it's just a very clear dead ladder. And if white plays this way, we just continue that dead ladder, right? If white comes out this way, we can Atari. And even if white plays something like this would be a double kill. If white plays something like this, then it's once again a dead ladder. So this is what's called the loose ladder shape. It almost looks like the net. Shape weakness at the upper right corner. Yeah, I mean, well, white's okay. I mean, if black was to play this, white lives with this actually. Well, black can't kill this. But anyway, so I thought this was a good example of showing you a Tetsuji. Good job, Pico. And for Marty, a little too solid. Like, yes, black isn't going to die on either side. But white got the better result if white gets to squander this and cut you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So we definitely want to continue looking at the Tetsuji book, the elementary series James Davies book. Finding this loose ladder, we want to try and make it like second nature when it comes to these killing techniques. But anyway, so we want to avoid the empty triangles and we want to focus on making good tiger's mouths in this particular shape. We'll look at another example. Let's see. I think I got 2 more left. Okay. This is another one that comes up quite often, and I see a lot of double-digit cube players make this mistake. So black wants to protect the corner, and it looks really weird to play A. A is the correct move, but I can see why it looks so strange, even to myself. But let's see the weakness of playing B, right? This is a very common mistake. This is what I call the fourth line tiger's mouth. Usually this comes with a very huge weakness, which is the peep. Once white peeps, black has become kind of a dumpling shape, or a B-52 bomber, I've heard it called. But white threatens to connect under, so black has to disconnect. And now with white's next move, whether it's here or here, white actually has a living shape in this corner. And so this would be great for white, right? And terrible for black. I'd feel awful for black if this happened to me. So this tiger's mouth on the fourth line actually has a very huge weakness. So that's why we end up playing this diagonal instead of this one, because this one allows us, I wrote down, the proverb, the vital point of my enemy is my vital point, right? And I might have worded that wrong, but the idea remains is that once we play this black group becomes extremely powerful, right? So any fight that's going to happen here is going to be more advantageous for black. Also, this, I don't know, if white plays somewhere else or Tanukis, we can clearly see that black just needs one more move, and now this becomes his full corner. We play on the other diagonal point. If white was to push something like this, then we can see that black still comes out pretty well. So yeah, I mean, this is the point. And I see this mistake all the time, so I definitely wanted to show this variation. But I really like, I know this looks like awkward shape, but this is the true move here. So this is an example of showing which diagonal to use. And we're on our last one. So now this was pretty interesting, actually. I mean, I don't see this often. I barely see people play this 5-4 point anyway anymore. So, it's interesting that black can play one more move and still have 3 moves against white, and white is actually still okay. So we can look at both examples. First, we'll look at this Hane, which is a diagonal attacking, and then we'll look at this move, which is the diagonal running away. First, we would counterattack. Black pulls back. White makes some shape, right? Some eye shape, tiger's mouth. Black protects this side from white jumping out here. And so now white pushes and then makes life. So I think this is very easy to find, but white makes life here, and black ends up with lots of thickness and sente. So this is good for black versus white. Even though you could think of this as an invasion that succeeded, because black gets thickness and white gets sealed in, this is good for black. So now let's look at if white plays this. If black cuts the tiger's mouth apart to take the full corner, then white can jump out here. This is a very far jump. It's from a large knight's move. But now you can see that white is connected. There's actually no way for black to disconnect white. White gets to stay connected to its group. And so this is a really nice escape, this diagonal under the fourth line stone. Here would be the weakness. If black cuts this way, so white can't do what we just did, white pushes to ask, can I come out? Black says no. And then now white has the strength actually to attack this stone. So once white attacks here, we Atari, we hug, we get Atari, but it's very clear we'll strengthen ourselves. And now we see white has gotten a bigger corner than before. And there's still an opening here. So white still has a chance to get out. So white's not fully sealed in. Compare this to the first one. we see that white is sealed in and has a smaller corner. So this was a really interesting escape. And it's a good result for white, even though it's 3 stones against the 1. So I thought that was really interesting. This is the end of the lecture portion. And now I still have some problems if you guys want to answer some problems. Let me just take a look here. So we very, very thoroughly went over 1 jumps and diagonals. It should take you guys some review of these videos, which they're always going to be on YouTube. But I think that going over these basics and fundamentals is helping everybody, including myself, actually. It's good to go back to the basics. So let's take a look at this game. Let me see. Runus, I have you first on the list. Do you want to try and answer this one? What do you think the best move for black would be in this case? The 1 jump or the diagonal?
I don't know. I'm inclined to do the 1 jump. Yep. Yeah, seems pretty much what to expect. I probably do the 1 jump because I'm more accustomed to the follow-ups than to that one. I've often, when I've played that, and white does the 2-space jump, I have no clue of what I should do next.
I have seen the diagonal followed up by the kick at A, I think. Granted, I've never played the diagonal in this situation, but
Michael, I think you're muted.
oh yeah,
wow.
Michael, you're muted. You've been muted this whole time.
I thought you were just like doing little diagrams and
Oh, my bad. So yeah. Yeah. So black
Yeah, if
has
you
lots of
answered my
options.
question about not knowing what to do, I never heard any answers.
Oh,
Yeah,
even
you
for
didn't
this?
hear the answers while you were
No,
going
no.
through those variations.
No, I could follow the variations. I didn't hear anything you were saying, but I could follow the variations. But if you
Oh,
said anything about my comment about the reason I don't do the diagonal move much is I don't know what the follow-up should be.
okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me know, guys. Yeah, I was talking the whole time. So with this attachment on top, we can see that black or white ends up making a very easy group to live, right? When I look at these black stones, I want to develop this area. So I don't want to make it easy.
So I wouldn't do A or B. I would probably pincer.
Pincer. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You can, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to show the difference between A and B. So for A, I think we let off white too easy, and black gets cramped. Black only makes 4 lines of territory.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we use B, you mentioned that you didn't know
Yeah.
what to do after this 2-space jump.
Right. Yeah.
And so, white or black has all these options that black can do. Black can kick, black can flatten, black can pincer like you wanted to. And now
Right.
we're making a 5-space extension or 4 lines of territory. This is far better than 3 lines of territory, right? And so this is much nicer. But yeah, so the idea is that this diagonal is superior to this jump on top.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that was silly of me to be muted. Sorry. All right.
Isn't that also called the Shusaku Diagonal or something like that?
Yes, it is. It is called the Shusaku Diagonal. I I did mention that when I was muted, but yeah, you guys didn't hear it, so
Nope.
very good job. But yeah, so this is what was played in the game, and I think it was the right choice. And we're comparing this. The lecture we went over was companion of diagonal versus one jump. So I will showed you the diagonal versus one jump, right? In this case, I think the Shusaku's diagonal is really nice here. All right. Pico, I'll have you answer next. A, B, or C. What do you think the worst move is, and what do you think the best move is for white here? We can see that black dove down to cut white.
Well, I think given the theme of this lecture that C would be the worst move because it makes an empty triangle.
I agree.
A little torn between A and B because A protects the cut. I think B also protects it because if nothing else, you can go back and fix. But I think black would be more concerned about you connecting under, so they're not going to take advantage of the cutting point immediately. But it's a pretty easy fix if you have to.
So which one do you think the best is?
I think. Let me actually read this. Yeah, I would go with B, or at least tell me why I shouldn't.
Okay. Well, to be honest, this question was more about looking for the worst. So A and B both work. No, you were right. I wrote it the way I wrote it. And so A and B both kind of work in their own ways. So C would make an empty triangle. This is bad shape. Now you mentioned going with the theme of the lecture, but honestly, this should be considered with every game, right? Like every game that we play, we should always think about our shapes. In the game, white played this, and this made the empty triangle shape. I don't think this is a good move. A is actually pretty good in some sense. Even though black gets the Atari and you end up in an empty triangle, black should come back, right? Or black doesn't actually have to come back. So now black can play anything. Because when white takes, black now gets sente. Or maybe not sente, but would be able to hug and neutralize this, making a nice tiger's mouth using the sacrifice. So A also doesn't feel as good to me. So B, I guess, is kind of the clear-cut winner. When black comes down, if we're ever in danger, right? If black invades this corner strongly, we can always make a nice mouth shape. Or if we tanuki now and play whatever, black does get to hit this pinpoint, but it doesn't. I don't know. I mean, it looks good. I guess to hit that. So, maybe white might want to take this now, but I just like this shape more. Comparing this shape to, let's say, this one, the empty triangle versus the mouth shape, I like B kind of the most out of this. Does that make sense, Pico? I'll take I'll take your silence as a yes.
Oh, sorry, I was
Yeah.
nodding. I went,
Okay.
yes, I
Yeah.
said yes.
Okay. So yeah, this was it was when I saw this, I didn't think it felt right because now when black plays under here, black has a good monkey jump for later. It split white apart. And if white was to try and protect, its corner, now it's making two empty triangles. So I'd much rather have this shape here than here. Oops. So to me, it's kind of hard to, you know, tell whether to play A or B here, but I think it should be easy for us to see not to play C. I think that's where I came across with this problem. All right. This one is also kind of a hard one. Terry, I think you have to go now, actually, but I appreciate you coming. I was gonna have you try and answer. If you want to answer in the chat real quick. But honestly, I know you gotta go, so so good luck in your match, and I think I'll ask Cowabunga also. Let me just see. Yeah, I'll go now. Okay. So Cowabunga, A, B, or C, what do you think the best move is for white now? And
I
what do you think the worst move for white is now as well?
okay. Gotta wait for that message to get off the screen. Typing blocks my screen so I can't see it. Yeah, I don't know. I figure C looks pretty good. And just an extension. Because then you have plenty of space. A knight's move, A can be cut, so I'm gonna say that's the worst. I'm gonna say I like B the most, and I dislike A the most.
Okay. All right, we'll discuss all three. So once again, I tried keeping everything aligned with the diagonal versus like one jumps and stuff, right? And this is the shapes that we talked about. In the game, white played B, and I think this is the worst move out of the three, actually. Because now when white jumps up, well, black played here, but I think black could easily play this. One thing that you have to remember with these shapes, this is hitting a vital point, which is good for black. But one thing that we can remember is when we have an iron pillar versus a diagonal, this is one of the first moves you want to look at because you can hit on top of white, and you can see now that white's kind of in trouble, right? Even if this cut is here, white's is looking really cramped. Even if white can try and make some shape, black is okay. So I really like this move because if white was to, let's say, go this way, we can kind of just hem white in, put white in an empty triangle bad shape, connect, make sure to protect our weaknesses. And now white's like in a very big empty triangle, which will eventually get killed. So this diagonal is really slow, and it's very bad shape against an iron pillar. We should always try and keep that in mind. So this was a bad move. As for part of me really likes this move the most, but I actually think both of these are fairly equal. So you said that yes, knight's move can be cut, right? But if this is cut, we can use this stone as a sacrifice in order to make good shape here. We can see that if white has cut black, black is actually fairly weak in this corner now. Even if we just play something like this to try and stay connected with our group, we can see that white got to split black, and this is good shape. What do you think about this, Cowabunga, this sacrifice here? You're muted. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. All right. Well, I guess I'll move on. But yeah, I like A. But I also like C. So with C, we can we have two options, right? And the idea is that if black takes this capture, then once again we can use them as a sacrifice. So we can take all these free moves. And once again, we can make good shape, right? We can make good shape out here, splitting black's groups. And white has kind of destroyed this area while making good shape on the outside. So I like the sacrifice if we're okay with sacrificing. And if black plays on anything else, then white can just make good shape here. So when it comes to the iron pillar, we don't want to play diagonal moves. This is actually a very common mistake. And I saw it happen in this game, so that's why I wanted to discuss it. But yeah, jumping out, playing lightly, we can use our sacrifices very well. And even this, we can use it as a sacrifice. Or we can jump out like this. But I don't like this as much. Thanks. All right, let's move on to the next one later then. A, B, and C. Dawn, if you want to try and answer this one. Kadar, I don't know. You said later, then I don't know if you're leaving, but if you are sticking around, what do you think the best move would be here? It is white's turn, and we're still in the theme of diagonals versus connections, right?
Okay, do you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So if we can go back a move or two, but you see black hits these stones, right? Creating some weakness. So now we got to figure out the next move.
Well, it looks like to me like I would be sort of aiming at C, but I can do a Atari at A and then move to C or B either way.
What?
So
White to move.
Yeah, it's white to move. So there's no white can't Atari
oh,
anybody.
I was okay. It's white. I was doing black. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm fine with moving to B. Is the way I feel as far as it doesn't pose any threat to the Atari. And if white were to move to C, then I'll just connect at A anyway, and then he's an Atari, and then I have a good
Okay.
I
Well,
have a good area up in the middle and up to the 11th line.
okay. Well, let's see what happened in the game. So white ended up playing C, but when we play C, I think everyone can see the next move that's going to happen, right? So black's going to Atari, and then white has to connect, and it puts white in bad shape. Now we have an empty triangle shape. And what is called the farmer's hat. Either way, you can see that black kind of got the good exchange out of this. So this C is actually really bad. So this was once again really into our theme here of like thinking about our connections and diagonals. I like A the most, the Hante move, because now if black was to play something like this, white has options to kind of squander black here, right? So I really like this move as the real solid connection or Hante move. And some people might argue about B, but because you have to come back and fix, I feel like black gets the better out of these exchanges. So I don't like B as much. But like I said, once you can clearly see that if white is solid, then white has lots of options to play after. So that's why I didn't like C. So that was it. That was mainly it. I'm
I
gonna
don't,
move
I
on.
don't, I'm failing to see the disadvantage no matter what black plays against B though.
The disadvantage. Okay.
No,
Well,
not to see, I'm talking about B.
B.
I
Okay.
fail to see a disadvantage for it no matter what black plays.
Well, black has a few options. Black can pretty much jump out very safely. And if white was to try and disconnect now, once again, it would be in the bad empty triangle farmer's hat shape. So this would be really good for black.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not quite that farmer's hat thing. I need to learn it better. I agree.
Okay. Yeah. Essentially, if you make a move and black can Atari you and put you in bad shape, then this is what we want to try and avoid, right? And by playing the solid connection here, it avoids that bad shape entirely. Same with this move. It does give black an Atari right away. Now, is this the best move for black? Probably not. Black now has a weakness it needs to fix. So instead, I would come up with something like this, hitting the shape point. Because if white plays something like this, black still has options to come out. Maybe I'd play here as well because once
Christine, I'll
again,
call you back, okay?
okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I think I talked enough about
This
this
is
one.
my game, right? So, let me tell you what I was thinking,
Mhm.
and you can tell me how I'm wrong. That if so, what I'm thinking is that I don't want, I want to have more force into this territory in the H15 or G15 area. And as I want to prevent black from doing something in there. So I don't care particularly if he Ataris me. I might just give up the stone even at if he Ataris at J10.
Mhm.
And I might just automatically go something like and maybe it's bad, but I'm looking at something like G16 even
Okay.
As white.
Mhm.
So I don't care about him Atariing one stone.
Okay.
If I can break up this looks like a big territory in between K18 to K16 and D11. That whole area to me seems more important. And so if you can tell me where I'm wrong in that, that would be appreciated.
Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of like the prelude I usually say at the beginning of every video. I didn't say it this time because we kind of rushed into it, but the idea is that if we're making good shape throughout our game and our opponents are making bad shape, we're going to tend to be a lot stronger and have a better fight in a better game. But if we're making bad shape and allowing ourselves to have our opponents make good shape, then they're going to have a better fight. They're going to have a much better game. So shape is vastly important to understand and to try and avoid being put in bad shape. So I'll show you on this particular board. Now that's a very general statement, right? But I'll show you on this particular board why. The idea is when I look at this game, I see that white has almost 4 walls against this black group. Killing this black group would be humongous for white. This would be a huge boon in points. Big gain. So black is desperately trying to make life here. See, black already made one eye and is desperately trying to make shape. But you have stones here. You have stones here. So black's only way to run is into the enemy, right? Into you. So you need to keep up this fight. You need to stay strong. You can't have weaknesses. If you have weaknesses, then he's going to make strength and live easily. Why give black easy life, right? You've been attacking him this whole time, right? Here, attack, pressure on this to make thickness on the outside, right? And same with this, you're making thickness on the outside to attack this. So in my eyes, this looked like the plan, right? To fight this. This is what this move is telling me. So to abandon that fight and give him good shape, it seems counterintuitive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know I fell apart. I
Yeah,
probably lost the game.
Yeah, like black is not going to have an easy time making life here. This is actually very difficult for black to live here. And so if you kill him, then you're going to win, right? But instead, you backed off, your mind changed, and you were scared of him making lots of points here. And it allowed black to make good shape, right? And put you in bad shape. And so
Right.
now he gets the good game, and then you get the bad game, right? I gave away the answer for this next question, but it's very clear once black makes the table shape here. Now black is going to make two eyes here. And if black lives here, then black did a great job, right? And then
Okay.
white missed a big opportunity. So black
All right,
ended
I
up
appreciate
getting.
it. I kind of wanted to see that anyway, so I appreciate it, and I gotta go though.
Okay. All right, Don, take it easy.
Bye.
But yeah, this was a really good example of the class that we were just talking about, connection versus diagonal. All right, I'll move on to the next game. Marty, you're up. We got this.
Oh, no, not this game.
This one's this actually, I think this question's really hard and interesting. But for black, so black makes the mistake here.
Yeah.
What do you think the best move is for black?
Oh, let me look again. I see. So black. What is the best move for black? Oh, Michael.
You know what, Marty, I'll end the recording here too. I'll just use the lecture part and not the question part.
I think the best move for black